This narrative blends anonymized Reddit experiences with psychological research for educational storytelling. Any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental. The creator does not condone illegal recording. Always check your local laws. Opinions expressed reflect common therapeutic frameworks, not professional advice. I met David in the self-help section of Barnes Noble. He was holding my favorite book, the obscure one about childhood trauma that nobody ever recognizes. "You have incredible taste," he said, flashing that smile that would later haunt my nightmares. Within weeks, he'd memorized everything about me. My coffee order, vanilla latte with exactly 2 ice cubes. The name of my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Henderson. Even the way I liked my towels folded, corners tucked under. It felt like destiny. He'd send paragraphs-long texts about how I was different from other girls. Plan elaborate dates based on offhand comments I'd made months prior. When I mentioned wanting to visit Portugal, he showed up with a handmade itinerary the next day. "I already requested time off work," he whispered, kissing my forehead. But there were tiny cracks in the fantasy, like how he'd subtly correct my memories. "Babe, you're remembering wrong. We met on a Tuesday, not Wednesday." Or how he'd reframe my emotions. "You're not actually angry about my ex texting me. You're just stressed about work." I'd walk away from these conversations feeling disoriented, like I'd failed some unspoken test. The first red flag came at month 3. I caught him in a lie about where he'd been the night before. When I confronted him, his face did this terrifying shift, from shock to concern in half a second flat. "Honey," he said, cupping my face, "are you feeling okay? You've been so forgetful lately." He pulled up his Google Maps timeline to prove he'd been at the gym. Only later would I realize he'd manually edited the location history. That night, I found myself apologizing for doubting him. Looking back, I can see the patterns so clearly now. The love bombing wasn't romance, it was data collection. Every coffee order memorized, every childhood story filed away, became ammunition for later. Because how could I question someone who knew me so perfectly, who remembered things even I'd forgotten? The scariest part? It worked. By our 6-month anniversary, I'd stopped trusting my own memories. I'd started keeping a secret journal just to fact-check myself. Was it really Thursday we had that fight? Did he actually promise to introduce me to his parents, or had I imagined that too? Little did I know, this was just the warm-up act. The real psychological demolition was about to begin, and I was already primed to blame myself for the damage. The first time I truly questioned my sanity was over a missing sweater. "Have you seen my gray cardigan?" I asked David one morning. "You know the one. That cozy, oversized sweater I practically lived in every winter." He frowned like I'd spoken in riddles. "Babe, you donated that months ago, when we cleaned out the closet." His voice dripped with concern. "Don't you remember? You said it was too worn out." I stood frozen in our bedroom. I could have sworn I'd worn it just last week. But David described the donation trip in such vivid detail. The Salvation Army bin, the old man who'd thanked us, even the latte we'd gotten afterward. My certainty began crumbling like wet sand. That afternoon, I drove to the donation center. The attendant recognized me immediately. "You're here almost every month," she said cheerfully. My heart raced as I described the sweater. Her smile faltered. "Honey, we haven't seen you since, maybe February?" When I told David that evening, his reaction still chills me. First, a flicker of something dark in his eyes. Then, the most terrifying performance of compassion I've ever witnessed. "Oh, sweetheart," he sighed, pulling me into a hug. "I think we need to talk about your memory issues." He gently suggested I might be experiencing early-onset cognitive decline at 28. "Your grandmother had dementia, right?" The way he said it made my blood run cold. Because yes, she had. and I'd only mentioned it once in passing, 6 months prior. Here's what most people don't understand about gaslighting. It's not just lying. It's the systematic rewiring of someone's trust in their own mind. David employed 3 key tactics that psychologists identify in narcissistic abusers. 1. Reality distortion, inventing detailed false memories, the donation trip. 2. Medical coercion, pathologizing normal forgetfulness, dementia comments. 3. Emotional baiting, the hug while delivering the knife twist. The worst part? It worked. I secretly took an online cognitive test that night. When I scored normally, my first thought wasn't relief. It was maybe I cheated without realizing. That's when I started what therapists call the gaslighting journal. Tiny sticky notes hidden in my phone case recording every suspicious interaction. At first, just facts. March 14th, said we donated sweater. Not true. March 18th, claimed I agreed to his mom visiting. No memory. But within weeks, the notes became more desperate. Why can't I remember anything right? Maybe I am going crazy. The journal was supposed to protect me. Instead, it became proof of something far more terrifying. Not that I was losing my mind, but that someone was meticulously remaking it for me. The turning point came during an argument about pizza. Remember last Thursday? David said calmly. You insisted we order from Mario's, even though I said their sauce gives me heartburn. I stared blankly. Last Thursday, I'd been out of town visiting my sister. When I said this, his face did that terrifying transformation, from confusion to concern in 0.2 seconds. Oh, honey, he sighed, pulling up his phone. Look at our DoorDash history. There it was. Mario's Pizza ordered to our address at 7:18 p.m. My stomach dropped until I noticed the tiny details. The order used his credit card. We always used mine for delivery. The contact number was his alternate Google Voice line. And the order contained mushrooms, which I'm violently allergic to. That's when I finally saw the machinery behind the magic trick. Narcissistic gaslighting follows a predictable psychological blueprint. 1. The setup. Create an alternate reality, the pizza story. 2. The proof. Manufacture evidence, faked DoorDash order. 3. The pivot. Shift to concern about your mental state. Maybe your trip was the week before? I recorded our next fight secretly, legal in my state. Listening back revealed his exact word patterns. That's not what happened. Denial. You're being hysterical. Diminishing. Even your sister agrees with me. Triangulation. The most chilling moment came when I confronted him with the recording. His reaction wasn't anger. It was amusement. You're seriously keeping voice memos now? He actually laughed. This is exactly what I meant about you being paranoid. Here's what psychologists want you to understand. Gaslighting isn't about the lie itself. It's about the reaction to being caught. Healthy people get defensive when accused. Narcissists get creative. My therapist explained the 3-phase gaslighting cycle. 1. Doubt planting. Are you sure? 2. Reality replacement. Here's what really happened. 3. Sanity attack. Normal people don't forget like this. I started testing the theory. When he claimed I'd agreed to sell my car, I asked innocently, "What color pen did I use to sign the paperwork?" His face went blank for one telling second before snapping, "You're changing the subject." The night I found his gaslighting playbook notes was almost funny. Almost. Because seeing your torment summarized in someone else's handwriting makes 2 things crystal clear. It was never accidental, and you were never crazy. The moment everything changed happened in a CVS parking lot. I was holding a pregnancy test in one hand and my gaslighting journal in the other when the realization hit me like lightning. I'd rather raise this child completely alone than let them watch their mother disappear into David's funhouse mirror world. That night, I began what therapists call reality anchoring. Here's how it works when you're trapped with a narcissist. 1. The paper trail. I started mailing notarized copies of my journal entries to my sister's P.O. box. Not for evidence, just so I'd know at least one version of reality existed outside his manipulation. The first time David saw the certified mail receipt, his left eyelid twitched. 2. The safe word. With my therapist, I created a mental trigger phrase, Mario's mushrooms. Whenever David started rewriting history, I'd silently repeat it to remember the DoorDash scam. My fingers would instinctively brush the allergic reaction scar on my wrist. 3. The gray rock method. I practiced being the most boring opponent imaginable. When he said, "You never loved me," instead of arguing, I'd monotone, "That's an interesting perspective." The narcissist's kryptonite? No emotional payoff. The breakthrough came during his birthday dinner. He told our friends I'd forgotten to make reservations, except everyone had seen the open table confirmation in our group chat. When David tried his usual, "You all misremember," something extraordinary happened. Our friend Mark, a trauma surgeon, said flatly, "Dude, we're looking at it right now." For the first time in 3 years, someone else had seen the Emperor's nakedness. The way David's face contorted, shock, rage, then that terrifying calm, finally made me understand. This wasn't about me being crazy. This was about him needing me to be crazy. My therapist explained the science behind my empowerment. Cognitive dissonance. His lies required my participation to survive. Neural pathways. Every time I trusted my journal over him, I rebuilt my intuition. Learned helplessness. The gray rock method broke his reward cycle. The night I finally left, I did 3 things psychologists recommend for gaslighting survivors. 1. Recorded our final conversation legally. 2. Changed all passwords to random combinations. 3. Wrote myself a letter listing 5 undeniable truths. When the Uber pulled away, I expected to feel heartbroken. Instead, I felt something far more dangerous, to him anyway. Clarity. And that's when his real panic began. 3 months after leaving, David sent our mutual friend a screenshot of a fake text thread where I supposedly begged him to reconcile. When the friend forwarded it to me, something miraculous happened. I laughed. Not the nervous laughter of gaslighting days, but deep belly laughs that made my ribs ache, because I finally recognized the telltale signs, the pixelated timestamps, the inconsistent text bubbles, the grammar errors I'd never make. The illusion was so flimsy without my participation. That moment taught me the ultimate truth about narcissistic abuse. Recovery isn't about forgetting the gaslighting. It's about developing such unshakable trust in your own reality that their tricks become comedy instead of catastrophe. Here's exactly how I rebuilt my mind. The Reality Renaissance 1. Body scanning. My therapist taught me to physically locate memories. When recalling the pizza incident, I'd place my hand where the allergic reaction had burned. "Your cells remember," she said. "Let them testify." 2. Digital detox. For 30 days, I avoided all technology that could be manipulated. No shared clouds, no synced calendars. Just a $7 notebook from Target that no algorithm could alter. 3. The 5 Belgs 5 game. Whenever I doubted a memory, I'd find 5 pieces of collaborating evidence. That forgotten reservation, the email confirmation, my sister's text that morning, the dress I'd laid out, the Uber receipt, the restaurant's birthday photo archive, the unexpected revenge. David's final attempt came via email, a rambling message claiming I'd broken a good man. This time, I didn't spiral. I created a psychological immunity kit, a folder of his gaslighting attempts labeled creative writing exercises. A video of me reading his email aloud in a silly voice, a mock Yelp review, 1 5 stars for predictable manipulation. My therapist framed the ultimate question: Do you trust yourself more than you fear being wrong? The day I could answer yes was the day I stopped checking the journal. Now, when friends ask how I recovered, I tell them this: gaslighting doesn't survive in the sunlight of unshared shame. The moment I started treating David's alternate realities as bad fanfiction instead of gospel, his power over my mind crumbled. If you're hearing this while secretly checking your own hidden notes, know this: that notebook is your lifeline, not your weakness. Every time you choose your truth over their fiction, you're doing the bravest thing a human can do: falling in love with your own mind again.